So if you could tell me your name.
Yes, my name's David Bradwell and I'm from the Church of Scotland.
And what have you been talking about today, David?
Earlier this month we published this new report called The Lies We Tell Ourselves, Ending Comfortable Myths About Poverty. It highlights 6 myths that are told by politicians and the media about poverty in Britain today. So, for instance, that people on benefits might be scroungers or alcoholics or drug addicts, or that the welfare bill is responsible for the budget deficit and so it has to be tackled to tackle the overall deficit. And basically our report debunks all of these myths and lies and says that actually we think they're part of another agenda that stigmatises and attacks people who are poor rather than the causes of poverty itself. So I've been here today talking about our work to try and challenge attitudes to poverty, and we've just come out of a workshop. It's been very interesting, had lots of debate and discussion, questions about what we can do together, maybe to talk to our politicians and elected representatives, but also journalists writing to local papers and in the media, basically to see what we can do together to try and challenge with these issues. So next time you're down the pub or talking to your friends in church, you might be able to correct them on some of the falsehoods that they've been talking.
And what are the top 5 myths?
We looked at 6 myths in our report. One is the biggest one is that people in poverty are lazy or feckless or idle, and we basically point out that there are more children who live in poverty who have parents who are in work than who are out of work. So it's a myth which is peddled by the media and politicians, which isn't really true. Another is that people who are on benefits or poor, or maybe on benefits because they have problems with drugs or alcohol. We point out that all the research suggests that people who are in work, in full employment, actually drink more frequently than people who are unemployed. And things like the amount of people who are on disability living allowance because of drug and alcohol problems is actually tiny compared to, say, someone who has a terminal illness or another reason.
And why do you think, though, newspapers like the Daily Mail or the Chat in the Pub, why is it that everybody's got these stories that aren't true?
I think it's partly because it's easy to blame other people, especially people who can't fight back or speak out for whose voices aren't treated credibly by the media. There's I think also a real problem that politicians feel that they can pander to kind of a right-wing agenda in the media, and then this kind of reinforces itself. So a politician will say something to the media because they think it's what the media want to hear, like something like the Daily Mail, and then the Daily Mail will report that, and then it kind of it's like a vicious circle. They'll kind of whip themselves up into a bit of a frenzy. So there are things like politicians of all political parties have talked about there being places in Britain where there are 3 generations of workless families, and our research says that there's no evidence. The Department for Work and Pensions and academic research from people like the Joseph Rowntree Foundation have never found any family in Britain where there have been 3 generations of workless in one household. And they've gone and they've asked people and say, I've heard about it, but it's someone else's family. And then you go there to that source and they say, well, they only read about it in the paper. And actually, it's a huge myth, and yet big decisions about universal credit and welfare reform have been made on basically what are myths and lies about poverty.
It's really bad.
Yeah, it is.
And what do you think we could do to change it?
So, well, one of the ways that we're trying to do is our report, which we've sent to every MP and MSP, is to kind of highlight to politicians. We're watching more carefully what they're saying, and if they're going to carry on with their lies and myths, well, we'll try and hold them up to account. Being part of the church it's easy to do that because we're a big organisation and because we're quite widely respected. It means that we can make appointments, we can talk to government ministers, we can call them out for when they lie, and I think people might respect the church doing that because it's not about protecting our own self-interest. We're doing this on behalf of people who we see to be perhaps in need of having their voices heard by those in power.
Mm-hmm. Again, that's in the Bible as well. Speak out for those.
Speak out for those. Yeah, it's
Can't
the good.
speak out.
It's the Good Samaritan. It's Old Testament prophets who talk about a society which is just, is one that's going to flourish, and a society which doesn't treat those who are most vulnerable is one that's going to fall. And it's about the community cohesion and everyone kind of working together, relying on one another, and providing that kind of decent safety net that if any of us had the misfortune to become unwell or lose our jobs or whatever, that we know that there's some at least decent standard that we might expect for ourselves if we ever became into those sort of circumstances.
All right, thanks, David.
Thank you.